Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roland Hume, and welcome to the first annual Bond Community Awards. The Bond Community Awards is something that I made up because I've got so much pleasure and joy out of being part of the Bond community over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, that I thought I should try and pay it back by giving some appreciation to the people who saw me through the pandemic, the complete strangers who've now become fast friends, the people who've shared my mutual love of James Bond. It's been a wild ride, and especially in 2022, so many cool things happened, so much cool content was created, and I think we are here to celebrate that. So the Bond Community Awards is something very, very casual that I literally threw together the end of December, coming up with this idea of doing a community awards thing. But I'm delighted to say people seem to have embraced it. We had over 100 different nominations for the different categories I came up with. And then when voting began, we actually had over 1,000 people voting. And it's been pretty incredible. And hopefully I can do everybody's involvement some justice as I list out the award winners. Just before I begin, a little bit of housekeeping, as they say. This is a completely casual thing. I made it up, so don't take it too seriously. I will just make a couple of caveats. First thing is, I didn't nominate anybody on this list. I specifically stepped away and let other people nominate people. And when I did that, I wasn't sure if anybody would nominate anybody. But it turned out that over 100 different people came in and nominated people for all of the different categories. So, yeah, if there is anybody listed here as a nominee, just know that I didn't pick them because of friendship or anything like that. It was other people. It was you out there who nominated these people. So it's your fault. And secondly, the winners. Yeah, we had over 1,000 people voting. I did it through Survey Monkey. I was actually quite astonished at the number of people who voted, so much so that I actually had to pay to upgrade my membership. So thank you for that. But I'm going to list the winners as they actually appear. So there is no picking or choosing. Some of the winners might surprise you, some of the winners might not surprise you, but it is all legit, done by the votes, chosen by you. You, the Bond community out there, you nominated these people and you voted for these people, so you better stick with who you voted for. But I don't think anybody is going to be upset or disappointed with the results of this competition because it's all just a lot of fun. And I don't want to take up all day with this, and we've got quite a few categories to go through. So we will jump straight into it. Let me wet my whistle because this is thirsty work. And we will start off with the category of Bond Community Podcast Episode of the Year. Now, obviously, podcasting is huge, especially within the James Bond community, and we like to celebrate podcasters in general, and there's a whole category for that. And it's also nice to celebrate individual specific episodes. And there were 3 that got picked up as episode of the year for podcast. The first is Season 1, Episode 1, Inflated Opinions. Inflated Opinions is a podcast run by Bond's Basement. And Season 1, Episode 1 started with the interview of this ginger guy, me actually. As I said, I didn't nominate myself for this. Somebody else nominated this. But it was a chat about With a Mind to Kill. And the second podcast episode of the year is from Really 007 exclamation mark with Behind Dr. No. It's an interview with Marguerite LaWars, who obviously was in the first ever James Bond film, Dr. No, playing the photographer lady. And the third episode is by our friend Donnie Waldron of Quantum of History, episode 43 of his brilliant podcast, The Fighting Styles of James Bond. So 3 brilliant episodes. I'm a little embarrassed that I was in one of them. I promise you, no nepotism. I didn't nominate myself. And the winner is, are you ready? And actually, let me bring up all of the results here so we know the winner is Really 007 with their episode Behind Dr. No, Marguerite LaWars interview. In this episode, host Tom Pickup is joined by fellow Bond enthusiasts John Kell, Chris Goldie and Rob Parker in speaking to actor, businesswoman and former Miss Jamaica Marguerite LaWars, who played photographer Annabelle Chung in the very first Bond film, Dr. No. Brilliant job, guys. That was a wonderful, wonderful podcast episode. I'm delighted to announce you as the winners. Good job. Right, we'll move straight on to Bond Community Article of the Year. So again, we've we look at writers in a more general sense, but it's nice to pick out individual articles that were written in 2022 by Bond fans and select which ones we liked. So there were 3 nominations. The first was by Commando Bond, Caleb Daniels. We all know him, we all love him. He wrote an article called James Bond's Military History. The next one was by the brilliant writer and eminent moustache wearer, Mark O'Connell. Happy 60th to 007 and Eon Productions on James Bond Day. And the third article was by our friend, big fan of his, David Lowbridge Ellis from License to Queer, a queer review of Die Another Day. And the winner was Mark O'Connell with Happy 60th to 007 and Eon Productions on James Bond Day. This is an article. It was a happy 60th anniversary to a product of cinema, culture, and now history. Here's to Commander Bond, Eon Productions, and all the people, artists, creatives, and colleagues who help fire those cinematic bullets at our screens, lives, and imaginations for 60 gilded years. Good job, Mark. It was a wonderful article. Really, really proud to announce you as the winner. Now, speaking on the whole subject of writing, let's actually move on to the Bond Community Writer of the Year. And there were 5 nominations here. It was David Lowbridge Ellis from License to Queer, Peter Brooker and Matt Spazer from Tailors with Love. Great blog there. Remart van Braam from James Bond Lifestyle. Jorrit van der Valk from jamesbond.nl. And Caleb Daniels from Commando Bond. And out of those 5, the winner was David Lowbridge Ellis, License to Queer. David, brilliant job. You have such a great blog going. I mean, everyone that I listed is a great writer and very prolific, but License to Queer is a fantastic blog, described as the James Bond phenomenon seen through the eyes of queer people, a mix of academia and personal reflection which doesn't take itself too seriously. None of us should. I will drink to that. David, very well deserved. Round of applause there. I'm just me sitting here clapping in my bedroom. There we go. Let's move on to Bond Community Video of the Year. Again, we're going to be looking at the video in a sort of broader spectrum, but there are a number of individual videos that people nominated this year, and let's talk about them. There are quite a few here, so I whiz through them. First, from the Bond Experience, was I bungee jumped off the GoldenEye Dam and survived, which is good, because otherwise the channel will probably not continue. The second was from Pyrosync. It was 007/James Bond. The third was another Bond Experience. It was the Bond Experience with Bond's Apartment. That's Luke Taggart. Real talk about the Bond community. Then we had another Bond Experience video. The Bond Experience with Timothy Everest as a special guest. Bond 26 Style Picks and Choices, Designing Bond's Next Wardrobe. The next nomination was from On the Tracks of 007. It was the Thunderball Reunion, Bond Girls Back in the Bahamas. Then the Bond Bulletin was nominated for James Bond at 60, the Jubilee documentary, 2022. Next came Calvin Dyson, we love Calvin, with his No Time to Die, a huge in-depth review, and that really was huge, as Mr. Trump might say. And then another Bond Experience video was nominated, My Day with a Goldfinger DB5, exclusive tour of Aston Martin Works. Then we had, our friends, the Other Fellas, with their episode Other Fellas 1 year anniversary. And finally, I promise you, I didn't nominate myself here. We actually had a video that I created. It was an interview with David Lowbridge Ellis from License to Queer, talking Double or Nothing by Kim Sherwood, James Bond 007. So that was a little chat I had with David about Kim Sherwood's book in the 00 trilogy. And the winner is Calvin Dyson for his No Time to Die, a huge in-depth review. I have to admit, that one I won by a landslide, and I have to admit I'm completely delighted to report that one. It was a really, really, really great video. I think it was longer than the actual movie, which is a pretty long movie, but it was hysterically funny. Calvin, great job, very, very well deserved. Right, I'm going to take another sip. We'll move on to the next episode. The next category is the Bond Community Podcast of the Year. Obviously, we've done one podcast episode, but podcasts are not made by single episodes alone. And consistency in producing episodes is what is key to having a successful podcast. And we've got some podcasts that were nominated that have done exactly that. Some really solid work. The rule was that over the course of 2022, at least 4 episodes had to be created focused exclusively on James Bond to be considered for this category. And we had a lot of entries. So I'm going to whiz through these. First was Luca Lorenzo with their Blunt Instruments podcast. Then we had Josh Gay with his Selling Secrets podcast. Love that one. Tom Sears and Chris Wright from James Bond Radio. Joseph Darlington for Being James Bond. Matt Spazer and Pete Brooker from Tailors with Love. Elmer Valerio and Alana Fix for Dress to Kill podcast. We had Terrence Lehue for the Suit Up podcast. Then we had James Page, David Lee and Bill Koenig for James Bond and Friends. Next was Scott Hardy and Cam Smith for the Spy Hards podcast. Then we had Tom Pickup and guests for Really 007. We had our friend Donnie Waldron from Quantum of History. And finally we had Thomas Felix Crichton for British Culture, Albion Never Dies. And the winner is... Are you ready? I'm going to take a sip. The winner was Tom Pickup for Really 007 exclamation mark. This was quite a decisive win here. Tom Pickup and regular contributors John Kell, Chris Goldie, and Matt and Harry Pickup host a fresh podcast dedicated to exploring all things James Bond. Our team of lifelong fans will bring you in-depth Bond film reviews, analysis of elements of the series, and up-to-date news on your favourite British secret agent. Very well deserved, Tom and other gentlemen. I have to admit, I was not familiar with your podcast until this competition came about, so hopefully we've introduced some new people to what you do, but very well deserved. Small, sad hand clap from me, but hopefully everyone watching this is clapping too. Let's do it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that's better. Okay, let's move on to the next category. This is another one with lots of entries, all very well deserved. This was the Bond Community Instagram Account of the Year. I love Instagram. You know what? Social media Twitter it's just been a cesspool. Facebook is full of crazy people. I like Instagram because everyone puts their best face on, you know. So we have some great Instagrammers in the Bond community. And the ones that were nominated, quite a few of them are Commando Bond, LDN Bond or London Bond, James Bond Down Under, The Style Is Not Enough, Moments in Bond, James Bond Lifestyle, That One Bond Guy, Bond Life Chicago, Drinks Beard and Bond, Billy's Bond Art, Spy Hards, Fleming Never Dies, and The Other Fellas 007. Good choices, all of them. If we'll probably have links down below, I don't know, something like that. But go and follow all of those people, all of them, even Thomas. And the winner is James Bond Lifestyle. There we go, Remmert Van Braam, very tall, handsome man there, runs an official account for JamesBondLifestyle.com, an ultimate guide to James Bond clothes, accessories, cars, and collectibles. Great Instagram account. Really proud to announce he's the winner. Good job. I hope everyone was clapping at home. There we go. Next, let's move on to a really exciting one. Hotly debated one, this one, which is the Bond Community YouTube Channel of the Year. Oh, we've got some great YouTube channels in the Bond community. The nominees were David Zaritsky from The Bond Experience, Calvin Dyson from Calvin Dyson, Benjamin Lind from The Bond Bulletin, Jerome van der Brom from Dutch Bond Fan, Luke Taggart from Bond's Apartment, Sammy Legend's James Bond Show, Chris, aka the Bearded Blofeld, for The Bond Report, Tom Pickup and Friends for Really 007, and Alex Simons from Always Say Yes to Adventure. Hey, Alex, how you doing, man? Right, and the winner is Calvin Dyson of the Calvin Dyson Show. Calvin Dyson, definitive winner by like a significant margin. And I was, you know, this was a competitive competition for YouTube Channel of the Year. But Calvin, you won by a very definitive margin. Very, very well deserved. I love Calvin's videos. I mean, I love all of the videos from all of those people listed there, but Calvin's videos, you stick them on in the background, I literally laugh out loud as I listen to them. Calvin describes his channel as his soapbox to make videos talking about the Bond series, and I hope you enjoy them. Well, we do enjoy them, Calvin, and good job on your win. That was very, very well deserved. So once again, round of applause to Mr. Calvin Dyson. Next, we move on to some of the stuff that was created outside of the community social media thing. We'll move on to the Bond Community Documentary of the Year. And this was specifically for a film documentary specifically about James Bond that was released in 2022. So we have here The Sound of 007, The History of Bond Music. That's Matt Cross's new documentary, The Sound of 007, revealing the history of Bond music from the genesis of 1962's Dr. No, with its iconic theme, through to Billie Eilish's Academy Award-winning song for 2021's No Time to Die. Then we had Martin Mulder's The Thunderball Reunion, the Bond girls back in the Bahamas. And so that was a fantastic trip to the Bahamas. You've probably seen YouTube videos about it, hosted by the Bond Experience. But Martin Mulder presented a unique reunion event, visiting the Thunderball locations with Luciana Paluzzi, she played Fiona Volpe, and Martine Beswick, who played Paula Kaplan in Thunderball. That was great. Next, we had James Bond at 60, the Jubilee documentary. James Bond at 60 presented a look back in time on 60 years of 007 to celebrate the Diamond Jubilee of the world's longest film franchise in style. And finally, we had Golden Era, the inside story of the creation and legacy of GoldenEye 007, celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. My son just got a Nintendo 64. I've been practicing with the old N64. So, Donnie Waldron, if you're out there, want to match up sometime, I'd like to very much give you the old slappers only. Right, the winner is, you ready for this? The Sound of 007, the history of James Bond music. It's an Amazon Prime documentary. It was great, really enjoyed it. All of the ones we nominated were fantastic, but I think that was very, very well deserved. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely go to Amazon Prime, watch it. It's a great, great documentary. Next, we have the Bond Community Streaming or Television Series of the Year. And there were 5 nominations here. Let's see. We had Reacher Season 1 on Amazon Prime. We had Yellowstone Season 5 on the Paramount Network. We had Archer Season 13 on FXX. We had The Crown Season 5 on Netflix. And then we had Slow Horses Season 1 on Apple TV+. And the winner is... That's just... I'm trying to do an imaginary drum set. I'm not like having a stroke or something. And the winner was Reacher Season 1 on Amazon Prime. And that again was quite a definitive win. I was quite surprised because I thought Yellowstone was going to win. But it is a great show based on the international bestseller Killing Floor by Lee Child, one of my favorite writers. And it stars Alan Ritchson as the man himself, Jack Reacher. He really looks the part. He's not a wee little fella like Tom Cruise. He's big, big, corn-fed American dude. Also stars Malcolm Goodwin and Willa Fitzgerald. I binged all of Reacher with my dad when I was in France this year. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. All of the shows listed were brilliant, but I'm very, very happy to announce Reacher as the winner of this particular category. There we go. Alan Richardson, everyone involved with that. Good job. Speaking of film and television stuff, we are now moving on to the Bond Community Film of the Year. And we had 4 nominations here, which was quite surprising. One of the things, we had over 100 people nominate different things, and it's interesting how in some categories, like the Instagram account of the year, you know, there were lots and lots of people nominated. When it came to films, there were 4 very, very specific ones that got large numbers of nominations, and no one else even got a look in. So the nominations are Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise, directed by Joseph Kosinski; Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and directed by Sam Raimi; Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, starring our man Daniel Craig, directed by Ryan Johnson; and The Grey Man, starring Ryan Gosling, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. 4 great, great movies. I think they're all pretty successful movies as well, which is quite surprising. 2022 was an unbalanced year in terms of that. And the winner is, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by this, Top Gun Maverick. It was a very, very clear winner. The Bond community really, really seemed to dig this movie, and they are not the only ones. It was the highest grossing movie of 2022, made $1.488 billion at the box office. Whoa. It was the most successful Tom Cruise opening weekend ever. So there we go. Everyone I know who's seen this movie absolutely loves it. Again, very, very well deserved. So, Tom Cruise, good job. You know, always looking out for the little guy like Tom Cruise who's fighting the good fight. Let's move on next to the Bond Community Non-Fiction Book of the Year. We're getting into book territory. I love book territory. And so for the Bond Community Non-Fiction Book of the Year, the requirements were that it was a book published in 2022 and it was about James Bond. It was a non-fiction book about James Bond. And we had 4 nominations in the end. We had Filming James Bond in the Bahamas by Simon Firth. It's a continuation of his James Bond filming series. Great book there. Intelligent Fitness, The Smart Way to Reboot Your Body and Get in Shape by Simon Waterson. And we had Being Bond, a Daniel Craig retrospective by Mark Salisbury. And then we had 007 XXX, Making of James Bond by Danny Morgenstern. And that was in German. Ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch, aber es ist sehr schlecht. And the winner was, you ready for this? Being Bond, a Daniel Craig retrospective by Mark Salisbury. So there we go. Big round of applause to you, Mark. Being Bond, a Daniel Craig retrospective is a lavish coffee table hardback retrospective of Daniel Craig's 5 James Bond films as 007, revealing the stories behind the making of the films with exclusive on-set photography, concept art, costume designs, stunt breakdowns, and more, accompanied by cast and crew interviews. Really fantastic book. Everyone I know who's got a copy of this book loves it. They literally put it on their coffee table. I hope they use coasters, because that would ruin the cover. Yeah, you should use coasters. He says, I never use coasters myself. Let me just wet my whistle before we move on. Let's continue with books. We will move on to the Bond Community Fiction Book of the Year. And with this, we broadened the scope a little, because obviously if you're only going to do fiction books about James Bond, that is a very, very narrow group. So we opened up the nominations to fiction books that were published in 2022, and we had a good number of nominations, some of which were penned by members of the Bond community themselves. Amazingly, I've actually read most of these myself. So the first was With a Mind to Kill by Anthony Horowitz, which is of course the latest James Bond book that was published in 2022. Another James Bond book published in 2022 was Double or Nothing by Kim Sherwood. And we had In the Blood by Jack Carr, the latest of his James Reese series. Very, very popular writer in the Bond community, Jack Carr. Good on you, mate. And we had The Mirror Man by J.B. Manis. Now, J.B. Manis is a member of the Bond community. I've read The Mirror Man myself. I enjoyed it very, very much. Another book I've read by a member of the Bond community that was nominated was Reason and Romance by Terence Layhew. Loved that one. That really ticked all my boxes because I'm a romance writer. Then we had Cult of the Serpent, The Adventures of Captain Hunt by Gabriel Rabanales, who you might know as The Style Is Not Enough on Instagram. I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm not very good at pronouncing names. But that was a rollicking adventure, if you think like Indiana Jones type stuff. And finally, we had The Mad, Mad Murders of Marigold Way by Raymond Benson. Raymond Benson, you will know as one of the James Bond continuation authors. He saw me through my teenage years. Gotta give him credit for that. His books I really, really enjoyed as I was growing up. So we have some great nominations there, and the winner is... Not sure if you'll be surprised by this or not. The winner is With a Mind to Kill by Anthony Horowitz. Yeah, that was another book that was by a definitive margin winning there. I don't think it's going to come to any surprise to James Bond fans or the James Bond community. You know, With a Mind to Kill and Double or Nothing were the two big books in the community. So congratulations, Anthony Horowitz, your third and final book in the series. Here's a little bit of the blurb. Behind the Iron Curtain, a group of former SMERSH agents want to use James Bond in an operation that will change the balance of world power. Bond is smuggled into the lion's den, but whose orders is he following? And will he obey them when the moment of truth arrives? ? Well, you have to read the book to find out. It's a good book, really good book. I read it on the plane to Paris. Right, excellent job there, Mr. Horowitz, and I look forward to whatever you move on to next. And of course, we have Kim Sherwood waving the flag for James Bond for the next few books in her 00 trilogy. We'll next move on to the James Bond product or brand of the year. Originally, when I was doing this, I had like separate nominations for all of the different things, but everyone nominated the same stuff. So I ended up clumping it all together into one big category, which means we've got a lot of products and brands to talk about. For me, the category had to be based around a product or a brand that was released in 2022 that had something specifically to do with James Bond. So, people were nominating Walther for their PPK because that's the iconic James Bond gun. As far as I'm aware, Walther didn't actually do anything like James Bond specific in 2022. So I didn't think that was a valid nomination. But we do have plenty to talk about. We have Floris, the perfumer, with their number 7 Eau de Parfum. And we had Lock & Co. for their James Bond collection of hats. We had the Spectre Mark III holster. That was quite a unique product. And we had Omega watches for their James Bond 60th anniversary. They did a lot of stuff based around the James Bond anniversary. The London Sock Exchange with their James Bond 007 collection. They released some new socks this year. Turnbull and Asser released the James Bond collection of shirts. The Perth Mint released their 60th anniversary James Bond coins. Penfold Golf released the James Bond collection. The Connolly had the 007X Colony, the 007X Connolly collection of products. Great photography with those. Oliver Brown added some products to James Bond's 60th anniversary collection. n.peal had their 60th Bond cashmere collection. I have to admit, n.peal, there are a few items I quite fancy. So I've got a bit of George Lazenby thing. So especially like that ski suit. Oh, I like that with the polo neck. Then we had SAS Training Gear. That is actually run by members of the Bond community. Some fantastic workout stuff with the little lion and unicorn thing. We had one of my favourites, which I've actually got sitting around. Right here, there we go. It was the Lego Speed Champions 007 Aston Martin DB5. That's great, I love that. Then we had the Aston Martin were involved again. They had Aston Martin's DB5 stunt car charity auction. There was a huge charity auction for the 60th anniversary of James Bond. They sold the Aston Martin DB5 stunt car, raised a ton of money for charity. So that's why Aston Martin are here. And finally, we had Alpine, the sports car manufacturer, for their Alpine A110S, which is a really sexy little sports car that you could see Kim Sherwood zooming about in for the launch of Double or Nothing. So that is a lot of products, isn't it? A lot of products, a lot of people doing a lot of stuff for the James Bond 60th anniversary. Good on you all. And it was really exciting to be a part of it and see it all out there. And I'm kind of enjoy being able to like highlight all of the stuff that different companies and brands did to celebrate our favorite secret agent. But there can only be one winner. There can only be one, as the Highlander says. And the winner was... Not sure if this will come as a surprise or not. Omega watches for their James Bond 60th anniversary collection and stuff. Specifically, if we're going to have a specific product, their Seamaster Diver 300M in stainless steel. That's a really cool special 60th anniversary of James Bond piece. If you flip it over, you can see like James Bond doing the gun barrel sequence again and again. It's quite hypnotic actually. So there are a lot of great products out there, and I personally would have gone for the Lego because I love Lego. But I think Omega very, very much deserve to win this award. So great job, Omega. There we go. Love all your watches. Love all your stuff. You really did some fantastic work in 2022. Very well deserved. You better bring your A game for 2023, though. Come on, man. Yeah. The clock is ticking. The Omega Seamaster is ticking. Right. And now we'll move on to the final two categories. And these are quite fun. We are part of the Bond community. It's a community of people. And there are people who are leaders within this community who've contributed such a lot. So we picked a Woman of the Year and a Man of the Year Bond Community Awards. And the reason that we have a Woman of the Year and a Man of the Year is not because we're sexist or old-fashioned or anything like that. It's because we get to have two categories rather than just one. So we'll start off with Bond Community Woman of the Year. Some great nominations coming here. We had, of course, Dame Judi Dench, who played M in all of the movies. She is a legend. a national treasure in Britain. We had Barbara Broccoli, co-producer of the James Bond movie franchise. She is in charge of the whole thing, holding on the reins. We are dying to find out when Henry Cavill is going to be officially announced as James Bond. Don't give me that Anthony, what's the name thing. We want Henry Cavill up there, looking smart in his tuxedo. It's my personal choice. Next, we had Kim Sherwood, who of course is the author of Double or Nothing, the first of the Double O trilogy of James Bond continuation novels. Love Kim. I had the opportunity to interview her. She's absolutely wonderful. Great writer as well. Then we had Jocelyn Sear, the host and content creator for the Ladies Who Bond YouTube channel and Instagram account. Jocelyn is awesome, and she is such an influential part of the Bond community, so really nice to see her nominated. We also had Dr. Lisa Funnell, who is the co-author of the Geographies, Genders and Geopolitics of James Bond and the host and content creator of the License to Critique Bond podcast. She's written tons of books and edited tons of books, really peeling away the onion layers of James Bond and what it means in the framework and lens of feminism and gender studies and stuff like that. It's really clever, interesting stuff. I love what she does. Also, she has a very cute dog. Next, we have Melanie, the host and content creator for the James Burb Instagram account. Love Melanie. I was so excited to actually get to meet her at Gatherall last year. A wonderful person. She, again, is somebody who, wherever you look in the Bond community, you're going to see Melanie. She's definitely a leader among the community, and everyone absolutely loves her and her bird. My cat loves her bird as well. My cat paws at the screen whenever it's on there. And finally, we have Elmer Valerio and Alana Fricks, who are the hosts and content creators for the Dress to Kill podcast. People love these guys. Yeah, there are a lot of people nominated Elmer and Alana, and so it's exciting to see them up here. But once again, there can only be one winner, and this was a very, very hotly contested competition. In the end, there were three horses sort of leading the pack, and one person won by a nose. And that was Kim Sherwood. Kim Sherwood is our Bond Community Woman of the Year. Yeah, it was close because she was up against Dame Judi Dench and Barbara Broccoli, who got lots and lots and lots of votes. Won by a snout, but very, very well deserved. Let me tell you about Kim Sherwood. She's a novelist and a lecturer in creative writing at the University of Edinburgh. She wrote an award-winning debut novel, Testament, released in 2018. In 2019, she was shortlisted for the Sunday Times Young Writer of the Year award. This year, well, in 2022, of course, saw the publication of her first book in a James Bond trilogy called the Double O trilogy. That book was Double or Nothing. And she has another book coming out very soon called A Wild and True Relation, which I'm super excited about because I spent a lot of time living and growing up in Cornwall and England. And this book is set in Cornwall with wreckers and sailors. And it's going to be exciting. Going to be really exciting. I'm looking forward to that book. So Kim, yes, you are the Bond Community Woman of the Year 2022. Well done. We absolutely adore you. Thank you so much for being part of the Bond community, for everything you provide to the Bond community. Big round of applause. Is everyone applauding at home? Are you? Good, good. But Kim, yeah, very, very richly deserved, and I will toast to your good health and all of the success you deserve in 2023. And this leads us on to the final award of the Bond Community Awards 2022, the Bond Community Man of the Year. Once again, we had a lot of people nominated for this. So we will go through in the list. First of all, we had the man himself, Daniel Craig. Of course, played James Bond in 5 different movies, but he's been very busy in 2022. He did Glass Onion. He was on Broadway doing Macbeth. He did that amazing advert for Belvedere vodka. He was at the Omega 60th anniversary collection. Yeah, he's been a busy chap. Good for you. Next, we had David Zaritsky, the host and content creator for the Bond Experience. I mean, the Bond community, everybody is familiar with David Zaritsky in the Bond community, so no surprise to see him listed here. Next, we had Matt Spazer, the host and content creator for the Bond Suits blog and Instagram account, and also co-author of the From Tailors with Love book. He helps he and Matt Brooker do this wonderful Tailors with Love podcast. Yeah, a lot of stuff that he contributes to the Bond community in a huge way. Very nice chap as well. Very dry sense of humour. He's funny as hell, I have to admit. Matt is one of the funniest people. You wouldn't think it, because he's very, very deadpan, but hilarious guy. Next, we had hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, Jeroen van der Brom, the host and content creator for Dutch Bond Fan, the YouTube channel and Instagram account. We had Will Burke, not Wilbur, Will Burke, who you probably know as Bond 00XL on YouTube and for his Instagram account. Really, really nice chap. Wonderful beard. Really nice beard, I have to admit. Next, we had Blake Powers, the host and content creator for the Bond Life Chicago Instagram account. We had AJ Chowdhury, co-author of Some Kind of Hero, fantastic book, The Remarkable Story of the James Bond films. Again, AJ is like everywhere in the Bond community. If you follow his Instagram account or follow him on Facebook, you're always seeing AJ pop up with all sorts of unexpected people. So definitely a leader within the Bond community. Very well-deserved nomination here. And finally, we had David Lowbridge Ellis, the host and content creator for the License to Queer blog and podcast. Love David. He's a wonderful, wonderful chap. License to Queer is fantastic. I love the way it provides like inclusivity and welcomes people from all sorts of areas where the mainstream media would think you wouldn't find Bond fans. The mainstream media is always going on about how James Bond is sexist and misogynistic, and we know the truth that actually, you know, it is a very, very inclusive fandom. But David is definitely one of the leaders out there showing that there is a place in the Bond community for absolutely everybody, and the stuff he produces, the content he produces is world class. So very, very, very tight competition here, but there was a very, very clear winner. I have to admit, like with the YouTube channel of the year, this one wasn't even close, and the winner is David Zaritsky from the Bond Experience. I have to admit, you were up against Daniel Craig, who got quite a few votes, but there was, yeah, absolutely no question here. David Zaritsky from the Bond Experience won by a significant margin, and you can't really argue with that, because the Bond community, to so many of us, David Zaritsky has been a leader within the Bond community. He has worked so hard to produce so much content, to work with brands. But I think the most important thing is what David does is he brings us, the James Bond fans, into what he does with events like Gatherall, the trip to the Bahamas, all the stuff going on in London. Wherever David goes, other Bond fans go with him and get to be part of this and build on their brand and their interests. So David, you've done wonderful, wonderful work to make the Bond community what it is. Thank you so much from all of us. Very, very well-deserved Man of the Year award. And yeah, can't wait to see what you get up to in 2023. So big round of applause for David Zaritsky from the Bond Experience. Is everyone clapping? Hope everyone's clapping. And that rounds up our list of awards. Oh, this was fun. I enjoyed this. Maybe we'll do it again next year. I don't know. But thank you so much to all of the people who took part, who nominated people, who voted for people, who were people who got nominated and were people who got voted for. Thank you so much to all the winners for everything you have done to help enrich the Bond community and make it what it is. It is such a pleasure to be part of this weird, delightful, wonderful, inclusive, friendly, loving community of people, and it's brought an awful lot of joy to my life. So to whatever extent the Bond Community Awards has helped with that, I hope it was meaningful. So anyway, I will wrap this up. Have one more toast to all our winners. Have a wonderful 2023. I can't wait to see what Bond fans get up to this year, and I will be back sometime soon with some more content doing something. Cheers. I'm Roland Hume. I've sold 67,000 copies of my books. If you want to find out how I did it, I've got the link right here you can click. And otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos coming soon. Thank you.